My wife was the capital's famed Buddhist devotee, yet she insisted on going to the Ganges in India to cleanse her body. I told her the sanitation there was terrible, and infectious diseases were easily contracted, but she said that a filthy body like mine wasn't worthy of understanding a pure soul. I couldn't bear to let her go alone, so I had no choice but to accompany her to India. Instead, my wife forcibly dragged me into the Ganges with her. She claimed its holy water could cleanse my filthy soul. Later, we both contracted an infectious disease, but my wife stole the only two miracle pills and locked me in the basement to die on my own. After the virus tortured me to death, she gave my entire fortune to her first love. When I opened my eyes again, I had returned to the time before she left for India. The Ganges' holy water can cleanse the soul. What could a filthy person like you possibly understand? Chen Jingwan glared at me. The strong sandalwood clinging to her made me cough uncontrollably. The violent coughing jolted me fully awake. I had been reborn. Sunlight streamed through the living room's floor-to-ceiling windows. This wasn't the cold, gloomy basement, and my body wasn't covered in rotting sores. I tried to remember what was happening now. I am going no matter what. Honestly, your permission isn't required. I married you, but I didn't sell myself to you. Chen Jingwan had proposed traveling to India to study and devote herself to Buddhism, and supposedly for her safety. I had just tried to talk her out of it. I forced a smile. What am I saying? Jingwan, I was only reminding you that the decision is, of course, yours. When is your flight? I'll drive you to the airport. Chen Jingwan seemed surprised that I agreed so easily. She studied me suspiciously for a long moment, then suddenly moved closer and wrapped her arm around mine. Lu Bufan, don't worry. I'll be back soon. But you said India was filthy and chaotic. I recall that your company is researching a miracle cure for infectious diseases, isn't it? Remembering what she had done in my previous life, my body went rigid. I patted the back of Chen Jingwan's hand, then casually slipped my arm free. It's fine. Have a good time. Since you're finally going to India, you should absorb plenty of spiritual energy from this sacred Buddhist land. But the medicine is still in the early research stage, and we haven't achieved anything yet. As soon as she heard there was no medicine, Chen Jingwan stopped pretending to be sweet and dependent. Lu Bufan, I never expected to hear a word like spiritual energy from you. But studying Buddhism requires spiritual insight. A worldly meat-eater like you has no right to discuss Buddhist teachings. Chen Jingwan rose and left. A short while later, she grabbed her bag and walked out, without even telling me where she was going. Chen Jingwan carried the incense scent of years spent worshipping Buddha, yet she always carried a limited edition Hermes crocodile skin Birkin bag. That jarring contrast led countless wealthy ladies to jokingly call her the capital's Buddhist maiden. Chen Jingwan looked down on them and rolled her eyes, calling them vulgar gossips who would be sent to hell by Buddha after death. Countless people had quietly warned me that Chen Jingwan wasn't as detached as she appeared. They told me to be more careful, but I had always believed that once we became husband and wife, I should trust her completely. Reality had slapped me hard across the face. I followed Chen Jingwan out, then took a car I rarely drove, and followed her in the discreet, unremarkable vehicle. As expected, she was going to meet her first love, Li Tan. Chen Jingwan's red sports car stopped at the back entrance of a 5-star hotel, where few people passed by. Li Tan was waiting there for her. The moment she got out, the two of them began kissing passionately. Chen Jingwan leaned into Li Tan's arms, lost in passion. No longer resembling an elegant, pure Buddhist devotee, I sat in my car and quietly began recording them on my phone. Chen Jingwan let Li Tan hold her as they entered the hotel. Neither of them came out all night. I sent the video of Chen Jingwan's affair to a lawyer in the group's legal department and asked him to draft a divorce agreement. I set down my phone and breathed a sigh of relief. Fortunately, Chen Jingwan still didn't know that a sample of the miracle drug had been developed. This time, I wanted to see whether, without the medicine in my hands, the two of them could escape the virus's torment. While Chen Jingwan and Li Tan were getting a room, I hid most of the anti-infection medicine at home and placed a hidden tracker inside the bag she carried most often. Chen Jingwan hated trouble and was used to being waited on. If she couldn't find the usual medicine at home, she certainly wouldn't bother buying more. Once they ran out of medicine, could Chen Jingwan and Li Tan still return home safely? Early the next morning, Chen Jingwan returned. When she saw me sitting on the sofa, she froze. Lu Bufan, why haven't you gone to work yet? I looked at her exhausted face and guessed she had been worn out last night. She hadn't come home all night. Where were you? Chen Jingwan stammered for a long while, but couldn't come up with a convincing explanation. I picked up my coat and walked over, then reached up and gathered her hair. You went to a mountain temple, I suppose. Your neck is covered in red mosquito bites. Chen Jingwan's body visibly trembled. I pretended not to notice, and opened the door and left. When I came home that evening, Chen Jingwan was unusually sitting at the dining table, waiting to eat with me. Lu Bufan, You're back. Come and eat. I cooked dinner myself today. I glanced at the dishes on the table. They weren't the same monotonous vegetarian dishes. There was even meat. Chen Jingwan had always promoted vegetarianism, claiming that meat eaters had no spiritual merit. Remembering how merciless she had been to me in my previous life, I grew especially wary. I walked over and sat at the table, but didn't touch the chopsticks. I ate at the office. Did you wait for me because you wanted something? Seeing that I had no intention of eating, Chen Jingwan reluctantly offered an explanation for why she hadn't come home the night before. Li Tan said that before going to India, I should first visit a temple to burn incense and observe a fast there for one night. That's why I didn't come home. I smiled. It's fine. Where you go is your choice, and you don't need to explain yourself. I glanced at my watch. I have a conference call to attend. Take your time eating. I'll take you to the airport tomorrow. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw the coldness in Chen Jingwen's gaze. After I entered the study, she dumped all the food into the trash. That night, I secretly took some of the food from the trash and sealed it in a bag. After seeing Chen Jingwan onto the plane, I planned to have it tested. At the boarding gate, Li Tan was already waiting there. He seemed surprised that I had come to see Chen Jingwan off. The smile on Li Tan's face visibly vanished. I smiled and held out my hand. Master Li, please take good care of my wife. I emphasized the words good care and my wife. Li Tan chuckled when he heard it. Chen Jingwan rolled her eyes at me. What master? He's a lay Buddhist, not a master. Don't pretend to understand what you don't. You're utterly vulgar. I completely ignored Chen Jingwen's sarcasm. The thought of her going to get herself killed filled me with unusual delight. Of course, I lack the refinement of Buddhist scholars like you. Once we reach India tonight, take a good walk around. Better yet, spend more time receiving the Ganges holy baptism. Chen Jingwan impatiently cut me off. You really think you're a big shot, don't you? With Buddhist scholar Li Tan here. Who gave you the right to tell us what to do? After saying that, Chen Jingwan pulled her suitcase and followed Li Tan onto the flight to India without looking back. I smiled as I watched them leave, and personally watched them walk toward destruction. I murmured softly, "May you rest in peace." After leaving the airport, I drove to the pharmaceutical laboratory. I handed the food I had sampled last night to the staff and asked them to test it. The results came back quickly. The dishes contained a large amount of sleeping pills that had been added to them. Yet my hands and feet still turned cold in an instant. I couldn't figure out Chen Jingwen's motive. The most likely explanation was that Chen Jingwan thought I had discovered her affair and decided to kill me. Just then, the lawyer sent me the divorce agreement he had drafted. After reading it, I decided to wait a few days and send it to Chen Jingwan after she contracted the virus. Using my memories from my previous life, I contacted a staff member at a hotel in India. I paid him to keep a close eye on Chen Jingwan during this period, and Li Tan. I told him they were my unfaithful wife and her lover, and ordered him to follow them everywhere and send me regular videos. I would pay him the remaining balance afterward. He agreed. After arranging everything in India, I checked the tracker on Chen Jingwen's bag. She should have just gotten off the plane. On the map, she was getting closer and closer to the hotel. Before long, the staff member sent me the first photograph. They had checked in. Over the next few days, I received daily updates on Chen Jingwan and Li Tan's whereabouts. Without me getting in their way on this trip to India, they walked hand in hand through the streets of a foreign land and stopped to kiss from time to time. Chen Jingwan no longer wore her beloved white dresses abroad and began dressing in all kinds of hot, revealing clothes. In the videos sent to me, I saw many Indian men watching her with lustful eyes. Chen Jingwan sensed no danger at all. Having discarded her disguise as the capital's holy Buddhist devotee, she began indulging herself. In the latest message I received, Chen Jingwan and Li Tan had arrived at the Ganges. In the video, they held hands and jumped into the filthy, muddy water. Neither of them seemed disgusted at all. They scooped up the river water and fed it to each other, mouthful after mouthful. The sight made my stomach churn. They were drinking river water mixed with human waste, and could still swallow it. If this was the holy water Chen Jingwan claimed could cleanse the soul, then she and Li Tan truly defiled Buddhism. No, that isn't right. They used Buddhism as a cover for their sordid affair, and even caused my death in my previous life. That was what truly defiled the Buddha. Chen Jingwan and Li Tan stayed in the Ganges until the sun went down, before reluctantly returning to the hotel. This time, they had been in contact with the river longer than in my previous life. Their infection would likely be even more severe. Night had fallen in India, and security would only be worse after dark. In the video sent from India, there was already a drunk man following behind Chen Jingwan. The hotel employee asked whether he should intervene. I told him not to, but to hide nearby and record everything, just as I expected. Those Indian men sexually assaulted Chen Jingwan. Li Tan didn't dare intervene and was so terrified that he wet himself. The next video had only played halfway when a call came in. Hello, may I ask if this is Mr. Lu Bufon? I'm calling from the bank's safe deposit department. There's something that must be delivered directly to you. I repeatedly confirmed that the caller was indeed a bank employee, then drove to the bank. After showing them my identification for verification, a staff member led me to a private safe deposit box. Inside, I found a stack of medical records and a diary. The diary had been written by my father. My father had developed cerebellar atrophy, but I had just gotten married, and he didn't want me to worry about him. So he stored these things in the safe deposit box, in case one day he truly forgot everything, so I could follow his written instructions, step by step, without panicking or losing control. The diary contained his plans for the company's future, and urged me to invest everything I could in pharmaceutical research to benefit society. He had also written his hopes for me. Bufon, you and Jingwan grew up together. You should take responsibility for caring for her. Dad hopes you two will spend your lives together. Jingwan discovered my illness. That silly child shed several tears. The gas in the kitchen was left on. That was dangerous. I don't know whether I forgot to turn it off. I was drinking tea in the garden when a flower pot suddenly fell from upstairs and almost hit me. The diary recorded these seemingly trivial incidents, but when I turned to the final page, the words in black and white pierced my eyes. My father's handwriting was messy, clearly written in haste. Bufon, be careful of Chen Jingwan. Not long after Chen Jingwan and I married, my parents died in a car accident. What had Dad discovered before he died? Did that mean their car accident hadn't been an accident either? I began recalling what had happened in my previous life. Chen Jingwan was the daughter of my father's best friend. After she came of age, the Chen family went bankrupt and accumulated enormous debts. Several members of the family were also imprisoned for financial crimes. The Chen family sold all their assets, and after my father helped repay part of their debt, they barely managed to cover the shortfall. Chen Jingwen's mother couldn't accept the drastic change in her life after the bankruptcy, and unable to cope, jumped from a building to her death. Chen Jingwen's father was already in prison. He wanted to protect his only daughter, so he begged my father to let me marry Chen Jingwan. I agreed. After all, she was the little sister I had grown up with, and I couldn't bear to see her left homeless. Chen Jingwan showed no reluctance either, and brought the few belongings she had left. When she moved into my home, before long, she suddenly became devoted to Buddhist worship. Chen Jingwan began visiting temples everywhere, and even built a Buddhist shrine on the first floor of our villa. I thought she wanted to pray for her deceased family members, so I respected her faith, and never tried to stop her. But then she suddenly proposed going to India to study Buddhism. This time, I did everything I could to stop her. The sanitary conditions there were terrible, and it was far too dangerous for a woman. Chen Jingwan disagreed completely. India is a sacred land of Buddhism, the birthplace of Buddhist teachings. What could someone like you, who only knows how to make money, and whose soul reeks of money, possibly understand? Honestly, you're the one who most needs to cleanse yourself in the Ganges. It probably wouldn't make you completely pure, but at least it could wash away some of your filth. I looked at the news photos of the Ganges. Its water is murky as mud, and said nothing. They said a man had even thrown a corpse into the river, where people often defecated. It wasn't hard to imagine what a massive petri dish for bacteria it must be. Chen Jingwan looked full of longing. I didn't want to ruin her excitement, but I was worried about her health, so I could only bring the medicine our company had just developed for various viruses. I accompanied her onto the plane. Li Tan was on the same plane. I had met him before. He was Chen Jingwan's Buddhist studies teacher. He had visited our home before, and taught Chen Jingwan many times. The identical Buddhist prayer beads on their wrist caught my eye, and made me look several times, but I didn't think much of it. I knew nothing about Buddhism, and thought perhaps all prayer beads looked alike. It didn't prove anything. Looking back now, they must have, without my knowledge, used their lessons at home as a cover to have an affair many times. An hour after we landed, a suffocating stench hit me. I couldn't help covering my nose and mouth, but Chen Jingwan didn't seem bothered. She shot me an annoyed look and sneered, "What are you pretending to be? This is the authentic scent of a holy land. A filthy person with no spiritual insight like you smells far worse than this place." Li Tan laughed along with her. I was used to Chen Jingwen's cutting remarks, and didn't take them personally. The temperature here rose above 50 degrees Celsius. The heat made the stench of human waste even stronger. The disgust made it impossible for me to eat. Chen Jingwan and Li Tan kept to a vegetarian diet, and didn't seem affected. The local residents walked in groups toward the same destination. After asking someone, Li Tan told us they were going to bathe in the Ganges to cool off. The moment Chen Jingwan heard Ganges, she grew ecstatic. "That is the holiest river in the world. Let's go with them. Those sacred waters will surely cleanse our souls." Men and women, young and old alike, were all soaking in the Ganges. When I saw this, all I could think about was cross-contamination. I stood on the riverbank, unwilling to get in. I was about to persuade Chen Jingwan not to enter either, but Chen Jingwan, already in the water, took advantage of my distraction and yanked me in. The filth and stench in the water made me gag uncontrollably. I turned and tried to get back to shore, but Chen Jingwan grabbed me. She cupped river water in her hands and pressed it over my mouth. "Drink some holy water. You're the filthiest person here." After forcing a mouthful of river water down my throat, Chen Jingwan and Li Tan began drinking it too. That very night, all three of us came down with high fevers. After the fevers continued for several days, Chen Jingwan remembered the special medicine I had brought, but there were only 2 pills. While I was barely conscious, Chen Jingwan stole the medicine and shared 1 pill with Li Tan. Then they abandoned me alone at the hotel and secretly returned home. I lost consciousness, and the hotel staff took me to the embassy. With their help, I finally boarded a flight home. I was diagnosed with a complex infection involving multiple viruses. The disease control center took me in and treated me for nearly a month before I began to recover. Worried about Chen Jingwen's safety, I asked the hospital for temporary leave so I could go home and check on her. The moment I opened the front door, I saw Chen Jingwan in the living room. I had discovered the affair between Chen Jingwan and Li Tan, and taking advantage of my weakness, they worked together to tie me up and lock me in the basement. Only then did I learn that Li Tan had been Chen Jingwen's first love. In the basement, I had no food or water, and my resistance rapidly weakened. Soon, the viruses returned and invaded my body once more, until I burned to death from fever in that basement. After I died, my soul drifted away and watched Chen Jingwan choking back tears as she told everyone I had died of illness. She hypocritically wiped away tears that weren't there, then inherited everything I owned. She transferred every penny of my estate to Li Tan. The 2 of them had killed me, then used my money to live carefree lives. Within days, they had obtained a marriage certificate. Considering that she had drugged me, she must have wanted me dead for a long time. She simply never expected a trip to make her wish come true and save her the trouble of killing me herself. Fortunately, heaven gave me a chance to live again. My father must have sensed the danger before he died, which was why he wrote that warning in his diary. The employee who managed the safe deposit box apologetically told me, "Your father instructed us that if he died, we were to call you immediately." But Mr. Liu's memory at the time had already begun to fail. Several digits in the number he left were incorrect, which is why it took us so long to reach you. We're truly sorry. In my previous life, Dahua Bank had called me too, but I was sick in Vietnam at the time and had no memory of the call at all. After I returned home, the person I'd hired to follow Chen Jingwan sent me many more videos, one after another. They showed those Indian men abusing her, while Li Tan was forced by them to join in their crimes. Chen Jingwan's body was covered in bruises, and the thugs left grinning after they were done. They left Chen Jingwan barely alive, with Li Tan trembling beside her. Li Tan wanted to abandon Chen Jingwan and escape alone, but Chen Jingwan stopped him. "If you dare leave, I'll kill you. You know my husband is Liu Bufan. Even if you make it back home, he won't let you get away." Li Tan was terrified of death, so the threat held him in place. He helped Chen Jingwan to her feet, then carried her to the local police station in India to report the crime. But the Indian police wouldn't deal with a matter like this, and wouldn't even file their report. With no other choice, Li Tan could only take Chen Jingwan to a small local clinic. After perfunctorily treating her wounds, they returned to the hotel. Unfortunately, Chen Jingwan was mistaken. If she died, I wouldn't blame Li Tan. I might even give him a medal. Chen Jingwan and Li Tan indeed couldn't escape the virus's torment. They quickly developed high fevers. While she was still conscious, Chen Jingwan told Li Tan to go out and buy medicine, but Li Tan was already too feverish to get out of bed and could barely worry about his own survival. With no other choice, Chen Jingwan had to ask the hotel staff for help. It was the very person I'd hired to follow her. At my instruction, the staff member brought only 1 dose of anti-inflammatory and fever-reducing medicine, and watched Chen Jingwan take it. I still had a mystery to solve. So, Chen Jingwan couldn't die just yet. Li Tan watched Chen Jingwan with bloodshot eyes as she wolfed down all the medicine. Desperate, he reached out to snatch it, but before he could reach Chen Jingwan, he collapsed from exhaustion beside the bed and struck the floor hard. The staff member turned and left. Chen Jingwan faced the man she had loved for so many years, who had refused to save her when she needed him most, and still offered him no help. Chen Jingwan turned away, pretending not to see Li Tan on the floor. Li Tan lay on the floor with a high fever all night. By the next morning, Li Tan had begun convulsing. Chen Jingwan had temporarily improved and still had a low-grade fever, but at least she could get out of bed. Based on my treatment experience from my previous life, I had the staff bring medicine for Chen Jingwan. It could help her recover temporarily, but it couldn't cure her. After a brief respite, the viruses would return even more viciously. Chen Jingwan looked at her battered reflection in the mirror, and tears welled in her eyes. Furious, She returned to the room and kicked Li Tan again and again. Li Tan didn't move and kept foaming at the mouth. Only then did Chen Jingwan become frightened. She called the staff and had them summon an ambulance. The hotel employee accompanied them to the hospital. Following my instructions, he paid the local doctors some money and had them draw a blood sample from Li Tan, then sent it to me back home by international cold chain courier. I needed those samples thoroughly tested, as they might help our company's research into the miracle drug. India sent over Li Tan's test results. His prolonged high fever had somehow caused him to develop meningitis. Medical care in India was expensive. The doctor demanded payment from Chen Jingwan, but every valuable possession Chen Jingwan had been stolen by the thugs. She couldn't possibly pay Li Tan's medical bills. During the doctor's shift change, she escaped the hospital, claiming she needed to raise money. The Indian doctors waited a long time, but Chen Jingwan never returned. Cursing, they carried Li Tan outside and tossed him into the Ganges. When my informant sent me footage of Li Tan being thrown into the river, I watched it several times with a smile, then paid him the rest of his fee. This was for the best. Let the Ganges water they considered so sacred carry Buddhist master Li Tan to the afterlife. The hotel employee said he didn't know where Chen Jingwan had gone and asked whether I still wanted him to find her. I refused. I knew Chen Jingwan was now desperate and would do anything to return home. All I had to do was wait quietly for her. After several chaotic days, Li Tan's lab report came back. I stared at the several pages of results and frowned. So many viruses were battling inside one body. It was practically like breeding a deadly new pathogen. If Li Tan were still alive, he might have become the first host of an entirely new infectious disease. He was dead now, but Chen Jingwan was still alive. I looked over the test results, but the final test was horrifying. HIV positive. A chill ran down my spine. I immediately had the lab staff draw my blood and test it as well. While I waited for the results, I imagined every worst-case scenario. If I was infected, I would kill Chen Jingwan with my own hands. But heaven was watching over me. I was healthy. The lab doctor told me they believe Li Tan's HIV infection was recent. That must have been the night Chen Jingwan's ordeal began. Infectious diseases were rampant in southern Myanmar. It was no surprise that one of those men was infected with this devastating bombshell. Even if I did nothing, Chen Jingwan was certain to die. She was always talking about karma, good and evil. Could this be heaven's justice, making her pay for the evil she'd done? The lab used Li Tan's remaining blood samples to extract viral specimens for the next stage of our miracle drug research. Just after I left the lab, I received an overseas call. It was from the embassy in southern Myanmar. I had to admire Chen Jingwan's determination. 4 days, she had dragged her sick body around, doing her best to avoid the ill-intentioned men on southern Myanmar streets. The moment she reached the embassy entrance, she passed out. The embassy tactfully warned me that Chen Jingwan had likely contracted multiple diseases. They would contact the disease control center and have her isolated throughout the journey home. They told me to prepare myself mentally. I went somewhere quiet and calmly ended the call. 2 days later, the plane carrying Chen Jingwan landed. She was taken straight to an infectious disease hospital for isolated treatment. I applied to the disease control center, asking to see Chen Jingwan once she regained consciousness, so I could visit her. The staff assumed I was worried about my wife's condition and offered me a few words of comfort. They said I could see her as soon as she improved. Every day, I put on protective clothing and watched Chen Jingwan through the glass. Every day, bottles of medication were infused into Chen Jingwan's body, but the types of viruses she'd contracted far outnumbered those I'd carried in my previous life. Once the antibiotics entered her body, they were merely robbing Peter to pay Paul, and her body also contained incurable HIV. The infectious disease doctor comforted me and told me to prepare myself mentally. Your wife is practically beyond treatment. We can only prolong her life. I said I understood. As long as she could remain conscious for a while, that was enough. Perhaps heaven wanted to give me closure too. After several days in a coma, Chen Jingwan regained consciousness. Once the doctor gave permission, I put on protective gear, took the file, and went in to see her. Chen Jingwan had been so tormented that she was barely recognizable. She stared at me blankly, tears of remorse streaming from her eyes. Lu Bufan, my husband, I finally get to see you. I thought I was going to die in India and never see you again. Chen Jingwan reached out a trembling hand to grab me. I stepped back to avoid it. Husband, it was all my fault. I shouldn't have ignored you, and I shouldn't have gone to India. I was wrong. Please forgive me. I'll listen to everything you say from now on. I couldn't help laughing. Who told you we still had a future? Chen Jingwan froze. Then she struggled upright in the hospital bed. Lu Bufan, what do you mean? You promised my father you'd take care of me for life. You're going back on your word, aren't you? All you men are cut from the same cloth. Not one of you is any good. Chen Jingwan cursed at me in a shrill voice, but I simply opened the file, took out the divorce agreement I prepared, and threw it at her. It was the first time Chen Jingwan had seen the agreement. The thug stole her phone that night so she never received the electronic copy I'd sent. Divorce? What gives you the right to divorce me? I looked straight into Chen Jingwan's venomous eyes. Then I threw at her the photos, taken before she left the country, of her passionately kissing Li Tan outside the hotel. Because you cheated on me during our marriage. By the way, Chen Jingwan, where's your lover? Li Tan. Why didn't he come back with you? At Li Tan's name, Chen Jingwan's body shuddered. She shook her head frantically, muttering over and over, "No, there is no Li Tan. Li Tan and I have nothing to do with each other." Chen Jingwan tore the photos on the bed to pieces, scraps scattered across the floor. "Husband, these are all fake. Li Tan and I have nothing to do with each other. I didn't betray you. Li Tan forced me. He deserved to die." I watched the hysterical Chen Jingwan without expression. Yes, he deserved to die. That's why he's dead. After you abandoned him and fled the hospital, those Indian men tossed him away like garbage into the sacred Ganges you worshipped. Chen Jingwan, are you satisfied with everything your long for Ganges brought you? Chen Jingwan immediately began wailing. She once believed India was a holy land, and the Ganges was holy water, but the sanctity she believed in had cost her her life. I couldn't be bothered to care about Chen Jingwan's tears. I took out a sample of the miracle drug and asked through clenched teeth, "Chen Jingwan, this is the miracle drug our company developed to target all kinds of viruses. It can save your life. Do you want it?" Chen Jingwan nodded frantically. She braced herself and sat up. "You want it? Fine, but you have to tell me how my parents really died." Chen Jingwan's face went ashen when she heard me. "Nonsense, Lu Bufan. You're talking nonsense. Your parents died in a car accident. What does that have to do with me?" I watched Chen Jingwan stubbornly deny everything. I pretended I was about to crush the pill. My actions successfully frightened her. She screamed for me to stop. "Fine, I'll talk. Give me the medicine." I pretended to hand her the medicine. When she reached out to take it, I pulled my arm back. Chen Jingwan glared at me viciously, her chest heaving violently as she gasped for breath. "Did you have anything to do with my parents' car accident?" Chen Jingwan was furious, but her desperate will to survive soon calmed her down. "That's right. I did it. Everyone in the Lu family deserves to die." Ever since Chen Jingwan's family went bankrupt, she had held a grudge against my family. "Why did my family have to go bankrupt, while yours stayed perfectly fine? You called yourselves close brothers. Shouldn't close brothers share one another's hardships? You Lu family members are such hypocrites." Chen Jingwan believed that after her family's company incurred enormous debts, my father, as her father's close friend, should have immediately used our family's assets to repay their debts, instead of waiting until their family had no assets left to liquidate before covering the remaining shortfall. She also looked at me, the boy she'd grown up with deep resentment. In her eyes, I was a hypocrite who only pretended to care, a piece of trash who took advantage of her family's misery. If it weren't for me, she could have married her beloved Li Tan, instead of carrying on a secret affair with him. You forced my love into the shadows. That's why you all deserve to die. Who wants your father's charity? He only wanted a daughter-in-law on the cheap. I pretended to be a devout Buddhist and won her trust. Even if an accident occurred, she would never suspect that kind-hearted me was behind it. But he managed to escape several attempts in a row, so I had to sabotage his brakes myself. As it happened, he took your mother with him when he died. It was all fate. Heaven was passing judgment. Chen Jingwan repaid kindness with hatred, blaming my family for the downfall of hers. This was the person my father had saved out of loyalty to an old friend. Once she removed her mask as a holy woman, all that remained was a vicious wolf that could never be tamed. Love. You killed your own love with your own hands. Heaven truly to see everything. That's why you've ended up in this state. With that, I threw the medicine on the floor and crushed it beneath my foot. Chen Jingwan screamed and fell out of bed. She ripped out her feline, and blood began flowing from the back of her hand. But she didn't care in the slightest. All she could do was crawl across the floor and lick up the pill fragments. I'm saved. The medicine will save me. This time, I'll recover soon. Chen Jingwan looked up and stared at me, her eyes glinting with venom. She tore up the divorce agreement. Then she burst into hysterical laughter and shouted, "Lu Bufan, don't even dream of getting rid of me. This is what your Lu family owes me. I will never divorce you as long as I live. Keep dreaming. You have to compensate me for the rest of your life." I didn't care. I looked down at Chen Jingwan on the floor as if she were a dog. I took out the last sheet of paper from the file and let it drift down in front of Chen Jingwan. It was her medical report. "Like Li Tan, your test was positive for HIV. You didn't know that, did you? It doesn't matter if you refuse to sign the divorce agreement. After all, you're about to die. I forgot to tell you, the medicine you just licked off the floor like a dog was fake. No, that's impossible. You're lying. You're lying. How could I have AIDS? Absolutely impossible." Chen Jingwan crawled toward me, trying to grab me, but I kicked her away. "Why is it impossible? Do you need me to remind you? What happened after the Ganges holy water supposedly cleansed your soul? All those filthy, stinking men, and your lover, Li Tan. Which one of them do you think infected you? Chen Jingwan stared at me in shock. How did you know? You couldn't know. I wasn't violated. No. I sneered, turned around, and walked out of the isolation ward. I already knew what I wanted to know, and couldn't be bothered to argue with her any longer. Chen Jingwan screamed on the floor. I could hear her wails even from the disinfection area. After that, I came every day to watch her through the glass. I pressed my phone against the glass and repeatedly played those images for Chen Jingwan. The more she tried to avoid them, the more determined I was to make her remember. She owed me this life. She owed my parents, too. This was her retribution. Within days, Chen Jingwan went mad. In the isolation ward, she alternated between crying and laughing, repeatedly ripping out her feline. Later, she began talking to herself, always muttering that Buddha would come and lead her to paradise. Finally, one night, she repeatedly drove the fur needle into her own body. When the nurses discovered her during their rounds the next morning, Chen Jingwen's body was already cold. As her next of kin, I signed the papers and had her body cremated. Chen Jingwen's ashes were casually scattered into a filthy drainage ditch. Didn't she like places like this? I granted her wish. Later, our company's research into the miracle drug achieved tremendous success. In the future, it would save countless lives ravaged by viruses. I had fulfilled my father's dying wish. While everyone congratulated me, they couldn't help discussing Chen Jingwan behind my back. The capital's holy woman had ultimately become the laughingstock of the city. Karma never misses.